cloud to the cloud. It's been a long time since I've got it wrong, but we are recording to the cloud because we are cloud-focused, SaaSOps-focused show, a meeting. This is Solve, SaaSOps Live virtual event with my collection of esteemed colleagues and friends from around the world. This is SOLVETank episode 15. We've had 15 vendors on to give us a demo and be grilled and answer our questions about their product. And today we carry on a bit of a theme in automation. And we have Richard and Henry from GW Apps. And they are here to help us accelerate our application development with no code. I'm certainly not a coder. I know a lot of people do like to code, but it's be great to see what's possible with just drag and drop. So Henry and Richard, thank you very much for joining us. I will pass it over to you. I think, Richard, you're going to take control and give us a demo.
Indeed.
And then ignore all the chatter in the background in chat, because these guys, as I've said, do like to get their questions queued up and have conversations. So over to you. Let's see what you've got.
Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, this is GW Apps. So it's a cloud-based, web-based, no-code development platform. It's built and it runs on the Google Cloud Platform. But we do integrate for authentication with Office 365, and we have our own LDAP so people can join no matter what their organization is on. But it's built and run on GW Apps. We have some Google and some Office 365 integrations. There are quite a few sort of low-code, no-code platforms out there, and some of them seem to take different tracks. The one that we took is we wanted to create something that was truly no code. There is actually no way to add code, even if you wanted to, at least in the current version. We wanted to make it as simple as possible to build typical business process back office kind of applications. So it's not a platform for developing games. It's probably not a platform for developing your mission critical core app. But it's a good platform for all the back office stuff, all the regular, ordinary business type process stuff that all organizations, no matter what their sort of core business is, they all have those kind of needs. So it's a platform for building that. So this is the dashboard. These are all the applications I have access to, and it gives you a good idea of the kind of things that are good or, we think fit the platform well. Asset management, employee onboarding, financial transaction, financial approvals, procurement, time tracker, authorization for, time off, requisition of stationery, all those typical, put in information, have some kind of approval process, all the way up to we have some companies who have 80,000 tenants. They own large commercial buildings, and they use the platform to manage the 3,000, 3,000 or 4,000 people every month who have a yearly lease renewal. So it doesn't have to be a small business process app, but it's for business process apps. So let me just give you a little look at some apps that we've got built so you can have an idea of what it looks like. So yeah, typical business apps, we have the ability to drill down and do sort of on the fly reporting. So, the platform can answer some of the most common, well, how many have we got at this stage in the workflow? Or how much money do we have at this point in the pipeline? Those kinds of things with the kind of built-in reporting. And then, yeah, just a pleasant looking business process app. It's fully web responsive. So it works well here on the desktop, but you can take the exact same app on your phone and it'll do the normal responsive thing of eventually going single column, stacking it all up, and everything's still fully functional on your phone. What was the other one I wanted to do? One more, there it is. So this is just, we have dashboards. So when we build templates, so the platform has a bunch of templates, as many of the no-code platforms do. We always give it a dashboard page that tells you how to actually set up and use the app. So whenever you get a new something from a template, it actually tells you how to use it and how to set it up. But you can also use this for doing charts and graphs and you know, a typical application dashboard kind of stuff. But actually, I'll do full screen. So we have different ways of laying the form out. You can have a tabbed kind of interface, standard linear, a wizard kind of thing. So we give you lots of ways of laying out your application, and up to 4 columns of, you know, of data. Obviously, we don't allow an infinite number because it is automatically responsive. We have to have some kind of boundaries for that, so that the system can sensibly reorganize everything when it steps down to a tablet or when it then steps down to a phone. So it's not a platform where you can build absolutely any UI that you like. You know, things like Bubble allow you to build any kind of UI, just full creativity, but then they're much more complicated to build your app in. You know, all that power and flexibility leads to user complexity. We've decided to keep it simple and focused and give you all the facilities you need for a typical business app, and, you know, put some guide rails too. Make it so you don't have to make too many decisions about layout and things, because for an ordinary business process app in a company, it doesn't matter exactly what it looks like as long as it's clean and easy to understand. Okay, let's go and have a look sort of under the hood. So we'll show you how to build an app. So you can build one from scratch, just complete greenfield, which is what I'll do in a minute. You can build it from a spreadsheet, which I'll also show you, and you can take one of the existing templates, and obviously it just copies that template design, and then you can start building and changing from there. Just quickly do one. So if you have stuff you've done, you're managing currently on spreadsheets and the like, and you decide you want to build it onto a proper secure managed platform, we can automatically kind of build the beginning of your app for you from your imported data. So I've just got a CSV file I've sucked in there. And now it's read the CSV file and it's saying, well, these are the column titles I found, and this is what I think the data is based on me reading the data. So it's noticed those are emails and those are dates, and that's good for me. It's now validating the data to make sure that there aren't any fields that don't match the data type it came up with. Then bang, it's now built the app. So it's actually built the app already. So here's an app with the actual records in it. It's built a form, single column. So I'm going to have to obviously change the layout, make it look prettier. And if there's workflow that we want, I'd have to add that. But I've got a starting form, I've got a starting view, and I've got my data in there. So it's a quick way of starting off a build if you have, you know, existing data that you're managing in, you know, sheets or whatever, but you want to move to a platform that allows you to have proper record level security and, you know, workflow and stuff. So it's a good way of building it, you know, pulling it in. So let's build one from scratch. Let's give it a nice different icon color. There we go. So now I have essentially an empty app. It's given me a form and a view, because you have to have those. You know, real business process apps are always form-based. That's, you know, that's how, even to this day, that's how real business apps are done. You need a form. Nobody's found a way around having a form, because that's just what humans use to understand data. So I've got a form. Obviously, there's nothing in it because the system has no idea what I want to build. And then here on the left, I've got I've got a palette of things I can add to my form. So the top bit is just layout. I get to choose how many columns I want. If I want to break my form into just visual sections, the sections don't have any functional meaning, but, you know, humans like to have data organized in, you know, easy to understand blocks. So I can have another section down here, make that 4 columns or whatever I like. And obviously I can give them titles. And then obviously the important bit here is I have my list of field types and other form controls, and I can just drag and drop them. So I can add a text field there. I'll put a rich text underneath the columns, but in the first section. Let's have a number field over there, a date field there. And then let's have a list selection here. And just because I like them, let's put a signature there and a drive picker there. Easy. Obviously, that doesn't give me a functioning app. There's more I need to do. Simple stuff like if I want to just change what this field is called, I can just type it here on the form. And similarly, if I have some field help, I can type it down there. But obviously, there's got to be more I might want to configure. And everything on the form, be it a field or the section as a whole, has a little properties icon I can click. And then on the right, I get the detailed configuration panel. So this is where you can do the air quotes programming. So I can give it a default value. Obviously, any new record will start with that value in there. I can make the field required. I can add validation. This is a text field, so it's minimum and maximum number of characters, etc. If it's a number field, minimum and maximum values, dates, minimum and maximum date ranges, either computed or static, all the kinds of things you'd expect. And some formatting options, uppercase, lowercase, trim extra spaces. And again, they sensibly adapt if it's a number field or a date field. Some other things. So certain kinds of fields have some calculatey ability. There's no functions. It's just straight math. You can add, minus, multiply, divide, and add a field in there. Actually, I only have one number field, so it won't let me do math just yet. But you get there. I can do simple math. And everything has conditional visibility. So that means you can build forms where some of the fields or some of the sections aren't visible immediately. So for example, this number field could be how many, and if it was less than 10, then these fields down here aren't required because it's too small a request or too a lower importance, a record to need that extra level of scrutiny. But if there's 1,000 or 10,000, we want to make sure we get that extra information. So I could, for example, have this set here not show unless that number field was, more than 10 or 1,000, etc. So it's easy to build forms that gradually unpack themselves or only show the user the bits they need based on what they've already filled in on the form. So, to try and make forms as interactive and sort of easy for the user. That's enough for that. So on my list selection, obviously, I'm going to need to be able to give it some options. Obviously, I can type them in, but we can also look up data from any other type of record in any other application that we have on the platform. So for example, I can look up department values from my contract management application. It's going to check the security. I'm a platform admin, so I get it. So one nice thing about that is, and this was something we were very conscious of at the beginning, was we didn't want to create islands of data. So with this, you could have a central application that had your lines of business, your departments, your business locations, those kinds of things that typically get used across multiple apps. And then some responsible person could manage that list. And then any other app you build on the platform can use those values, knowing that they're valid, that they're coming from the trusted known source. You don't have to keep managing the list of departments in every app. Okay, I think that's enough adding fields. So let's preview it. So here's a form. So here's my list of, I pointed an app that had no department values in that form. I thought that was the one that had data in it. I've got my signature field. My drive picker obviously will go to my Google Drive and allow me to associate various things from my Google Drive in there. But I got my simple form. Is that my, there we go. So just quickly, so that obviously, I can move any of my fields around, that kind of stuff. And there's lots of obviously advanced field things like text fields can concatenate values and add text, and number fields can do some basic math, etc. But they're all the kinds of things you'd expect to be able to find. Here is where you can do the workflow. So you can have as many workflow stages as you like, arrange them how you like. And then at each workflow stage, you just get to add action buttons. And these can do a range of things. They can send emails, they can generate a PDF version of this record. So you could automatically have it generate like a nicely formatted invoice or a confirmation thing that you could then email to the respective parties. You can have it to update values on other records or even itself, trigger a webhook to access or take an action on an external system, those kinds of things. And then obviously you can have as many actions, so it could do something with a webhook, and then it could change to the next stage in the workflow, and then it can just close itself. You can also have conditional workflow. So you can say, well, if the how many field is greater than 10, don't go to review, go to second stage review, or do something different. So you can have conditional, fairly complicated conditional workflow. And again, it's all click on something. So I can add a condition if this field, how many is greater than 12, then do this instead. So it's possible to build, because I've had to do it for clients, quite complicated multi-stage conditional workflows. And as you can see, there's no code in this. As long as you understand clearly the thing you're trying to build, and you're a little tech savvy, happy building things in Excel, etc., you should be able to build really quite complicated things in this if you understand your goal clearly and you just take your time, maybe read a couple of the tutorials. Pretty much anything is. And yeah, we have conditional visibility on things, so you can have buttons only showing at the appropriate times, those kinds of things. So then security. So another thing we were very keen on, we wanted this to have proper detailed security, but again, no code. Nobody should have to write any formulas to work anything out. So here you can see these are the workflow stages I've got: draft, review, completed. These are my user roles, which are managed not at the form level, but at the application level. And here I just get to say, okay, for people who have the reader's role at this stage, I don't want them to see those two fields. And for editors at the review stage, I only want them to be able to see those fields. So for any particular stage in a business process and for any role somebody has, I can get down to detailed field level security just by clicking a few buttons. So fine detailed control, but as little complexity as we could manage, to make it as simple as we possibly could while giving you the capabilities that you need. One other thing that's nice we've got, and this is what that commercial real estate company uses, is we have anonymous access, which is a nice feature. It's kind of like you can share a document from Google by just sharing a link. That link is your ability to come and interact with that record or that document. Similarly, if you turn it on and you allow it, you can have people being able to access a specific record that's already been created for them, or to come and create a new record, and they only get access via that URL to those specific records. So in this example of that commercial real estate company, every month they download data from their giant property management system. They get a CSV file of several thousand names. The system, GW Apps imports it, creates a month, a yearly lease review record for each of the people, and mails an email with the link to it, because it's a workflow stage, to the person. They click on that link and then they can fill in their form and they can interact with the system, and they don't have to have an actual account. They're not, you don't have to give all 80,000 of your tenants a licensed account on the platform in order for them to be able to work on the platform, which is something quite a few of our clients are using. Obviously, you shouldn't put anything on that form that's truly secret, like their social security number, because this isn't truly secure in the deep IT sense, but it's more than secure enough for the uses that our clients are using for it. And, they like that feature. Okay, I'm going to stop for a second, see if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, I'll show you how to build some views and a couple of other bits.
Yeah, let's carry on going through the demo, and then we'll save the questions for the end. Let's do that. Do it that way.
Okay. So yeah, views, obviously, they're summary tables. So you can create a view and you tell it which form it's going to go against. And you can build ordinary list table views, calendar views, and Kanbans. I'll actually show you afterwards an app that we have has calendar and Kanban in it. I'll just do a table view because they're obviously conceptually easier to understand. So this is all of the fields on that record. It just dumps them in there, and you simply go, well, I don't want that one. 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 I'm not going to have my drive field in there, and I need a record ID, but I don't need my users to see it. Oh, I didn't mean to get rid of how many. So obviously anything over here on the palette, I can drag, I can reorder them. And then here on the properties, I get to say whether they're aligned, which way, how wide it is. You know, I need more room for that one, whether text should clip or wrap, etc., etc. And also I can override the actual field name on the form on the view, because sometimes you want a nice long descriptive name on the form, but in views, you don't have room for it all, you know, for your column headers in your views. So in my view, I can give it a pithier, shorter name. So let me just save that. So I've got a new view. Let me just put in a couple of, oh, I made that computed. Okay. Okay. One nice thing is that interface is great for building the view. It's a little hard to sort of finesse and fettle the view to make the columns all fit. So we actually have in-view editing. So because I am an editor, obviously people who aren't an editor wouldn't be able to see the editing bits, but I can change the alignment of my data. I can change the width. I can change the formatting of the words. All those kinds of things. I can change the sorting on my columns and everything. So I can really work with it with my test data and get it the way I like. And then I can save it. Again, only because I'm an application editor. Normal users, and actually at this point, I think I'm going to flip to that simple CRM. But normal users all get to, again, I'm an editor, but normal users get to sort and actually add things like, you know, on a numerical field, they can add min, max, and sum, so they can get reporting, and they can do that on their view, on the fly. What they can't do is save it. So all users can actually, on the fly, rearrange the view they're looking at to, you know, to change the sorting, change the column widths. They can't delete columns. That's one thing they can't do. You know, add some mathematical formula stuff to answer a quick reporting question. And, you know, when they go away, it goes back to default, and what they're doing doesn't affect anyone else. So there's some sort of on the fly finessing you can do of the view as an ordinary user, but as a developer, I get to finesse it here and then save it on the fly. Okay, so actually that wasn't the one I wanted. Damn it, I've forgotten. I was looking at one earlier today that had. No, it was that. I'm just looking at the wrong bit. No, it's not. Okay, sorry. That's the one. Okay, so this is a request to have an event or something at a property. So here's a calendar view. So it's a pretty ordinary calendar, monthly, weekly, daily, and you can see obviously what things are occurring when. And this is this is a Kanban board with a very small tile that only has the record ID, not very useful. So here's a better one with a larger tile. And obviously, as you can imagine with a Kanban board, I can just grab this and move it in the workflow, exactly as you do with Kanban. So you can affect workflow change just by dragging the tiles around on my Kanban view. In all the views, you can export your data to Google Sheet or CSV just on the fly. Obviously, if you want to do extra reporting. And a nice thing that we added as a workflow step, you can export an entire view to a predefined Google Sheet and then have it every 5 minutes, every hour, every day, export all the new data and any changes. So sync up with that Google Sheet. And then obviously you can use Data Studio and Google Analytics and stuff to build lovely dashboards off of that sheet. So you can have the senior VP and stuff looking at this really beautiful dashboard of all the data, and it's updated automatically every hour, every day, whatever you set up, and you don't have to do anything. So we have a couple of companies that are doing that, because there's a limit to how much dashboard reporting we can build into this. But with that, you can have anything you want using the Google's tools or any other tool that can run off of a Google Sheet, and we can automate that. Similarly, the data import that I showed you as part of the app building, that again can be triggered as a scheduled event. So if you have some system, like we're saying with that property management, we ingest several thousand records once a month. But you similarly could do, give me all the new records in the last hour or the last day. So you can, if you have a legacy system that's producing data, you can build, use GW apps as a front end to work with that data if you want.
Richard, I think we have to be cautious about the time.
Yeah, I actually was going to say, I think
we're doing well. We're doing well. We're at past. This is a good time to stop the demo and move over to get some questions answered or asked.
Should I keep sharing so I can point at
things?
things?
Yeah,
or do you
keep
want me to
sharing.
stop sharing?
I'm guessing that some of the questions are gonna require some explanation. Brian, did you have your hand up first? Or are you swatting a fly in front of your face? I wasn't sure.
Both. Yeah, it's that bad in here. Richard, I know you touched upon this just briefly, but I'd like to kind of see a more pointed answer to it. Like dynamic lists, you mentioned how like some fields can pull data from other parts of the construct here. Like you mentioned departments, for example. I know your particular example didn't show the list, but I believe you. I'm more curious about like the source of the actual department's info. Like, can that be dynamically? Can that be like a changing answer? Many companies I work for have like a changing department list all the time, and we'd love to continually import departments to a department's pick list and have them kind of like automatically fulfill and populate.
Well, let me just show you. So this client name comes from this client lists view, in effect, that's part of the app. But like I showed you, it could be in a different app. And then this list of projects is filtered on the client name. So you can also do conditional filtering. And these projects are just project records. And again, you can do that from any app. Based on what we were saying before, because we could have, as part of a triggered workflow, schedule action, we could have that import that data from some other source. Then yeah, in theory, I don't know that any client's actually doing that, but it definitely would work. You could import some stuff from PeopleSoft or whatever, the corporate source of truth for departments or whatever, and yeah, you could have that be this. Or as we sort of more normally expect, you just manage the list within the application. So many of our applications have what we call a lookups section that just the app managers get to, and that's where they would store their specific lookups for that app.
Two quick follow-ups for you, if you don't mind. Like,
sure.
we can import this from a Google Sheet, like a standing Google Sheet that's automatically updated, or are we able to kind of set up a automatic function there? Or
yeah, you would import it from a CSV or a Google Sheet. If it's something you wanted to do, we do have APIs, so it's possible that we could read it straight from a SQL table. We don't have any, some of the platforms have out of the box, drag and drop kind of integrations. At the moment, we're doing integrations as requested by customers. So yeah, for some customers, we have them importing, reading stuff straight out of Cloud SQL, etc. So yeah, either just get by importing it from CSV, and that you can just do straight from the app. So that would just be an action that you would set up and then set a trigger to make it happen every 5 minutes, every hour. So you could import the data. So you would stage the data in a records type and a view in the app, or in an app somewhere in GW apps that all the apps could then look up, or assign someone to manage the name, the list manually if you don't have another corporate source of truth to get the information from.
And does it play MP3s?
I've never tried.
Only if you have the correct licensing. You have to upload your Creative Commons license or proof of purchase
From the Fraunhofer Institute.
Yeah. Any other questions, people? I have one or two.
I have some.
Yeah, go on.
First of all, thank you for publishing your pricing on your website. This is very helpful. So we've seen a couple of these now, and I've seen some, as part of my own work, but a lot of times there's, I guess, rate limiting, right? So you end up with, there's a volume to using APIs. And so the more actions and the more things you have, the higher that volume grows over time. And like what you just mentioned, right, where you're like scheduling a CSV to import on a schedule, do 100 of those and you can quickly kind of run into a lot of actions being taken all the time. And so I was curious, because your feature breakdown and things don't really enumerate whether or not there's any rate limiting on the different plans. And so I was curious about that.
There's not specific rate limiting on the plans. We don't, at the moment, we don't have any clients that are hitting any limits that are causing us any issues, and hence would have to bake that into our pricing. Clearly, if we're working with a client who has an ambitious goal they want to implement, they're probably going to want to be on an enterprise plan anyway. So we're not saying it's impossible that there might be, but none of our clients have one yet.
Okay.
But
sometimes you end up with those clients who want to do just one thing, but like they want to do it in a massive scale.
Yeah.
So just curious. Okay, that's good to know.
Alex has got a question there. Using the correct
I was wondering about version control and just notifications around, if there's notifications inherent for editing documents or changes made.
Yep. Okay. So all of the apps, we've got several layers of sort of auditing type stuff. So just at the platform level, it records anytime anybody deletes an app or does something sort of something the platform would care about. And then for every single app, the reason I'm hunting is I added 2 apps that both had A's at the beginning. So they've gone to the top of my dashboard. Now everything's in the wrong column and row because they've all shuffled because it's alphabetic. So on the application, if you're, for example, if I'm in a record, all records track their history. We're actually just about to add a release that will have slightly more detail in this. Oh, actually, no, sorry, they've just pushed it. So here's the activity workflow level activity. So records track what they do, including field value changes. If you're in the design, there's a history at the design level. So this is every app design change. It won't track that you moved a field around, but basically it's every time a form was saved. So you can see who's been editing your application. So we have, record data logging. We have application design logging, and we have platform application change logging.
Okay. Is there any ability to revert, or do you have intentions to show what changes were made at any point?
On the record, we have, for records, the history does show field value changes. So there isn't record versioning. What we are about to add is, it's not quite versioning, but at the moment, all design changes are live. So by the end of the month or early next month, so in the next few weeks, because I've seen it demoed and they're in final testing, but this is a big one, so they're being very cautious. We will have a sandbox development version. So then you would make all the changes in the sandbox, test it, and it has some automatic, just basically check a box, and all the email notifications will just go to the testing people you've notified. And then when you're happy with everything, you've tested everything, then you can publish the sandbox version. So we will have one level of design versioning, which is something we need. We're having people are building bigger and more complicated things with it than we initially expected. So we thought that doesn't have to be something that we have to do immediately, because people will be building simpler things, and then some of our clients are showing us what they're building. It's like, no, we need to give them proper development version control.
Yeah, that was my thought when you were just looking at how complex these can get if you hand it over to a department and then one person comes up and breaks the whole thing.
Yeah. Now, obviously, everything's backed up regularly. Off the top of my head, I don't know the schedule, but we back up very frequently and keep quite a reasonable depth of backups. And again, that's not something we play with. As somebody sort of mentioned, some of the platforms is like, oh, you get 30 minutes of logging, or you get monthly backup if you're on the cheaper plan. No, everybody gets the same backing up and logging. We don't play with that. We think that's an absolute requirement, no matter what size you are. So yeah. So ultimately, we have for clients reverted the design of an application because they did mess that up. But hopefully that will happen much less often. Now they'll have the sandbox to thoroughly test before they publish.
That's optimistic.
Yeah, no, it'll still happen. I have no doubts. I've been in this way too long to think it won't happen still.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got 15 minutes left. Any other questions? Then we'll go through and get people's feedback. Anybody got a question? If not, I've got one, which I'm going to ask. I'm going to take control.
Go for it, Colin.
So obviously, this is a great improvement over forms, and a lot of our processes start with something as simple as a Google form. Mm-hmm. If I've got a Google form that I use I pay for an add-on that allows me to do an approval where you ask for something, you put in the line manager's email address, it goes to them, it gets approved, and then it gets a final approval, and then we do whatever was asked. If I've already got half of that built out in my form, is there a way of importing my simple Google form sort of template into GW apps and then expanding on it? And how do you do how do you do that sort of email approval?
Sure. Well, normally your Google form usually has a Google Sheet backend.
Okay.
So just as I showed you creating an app by importing a CSV, just save the Google Sheet to a CSV and have the app import that. Now, that workflow bit you had from the add-on, we can't read that, but your data fields and all the historic data that you have, we can import that in seconds, like I showed you. To create the starter app, you would then have to build the workflow bit, yourself. So let me go back to my demo.
You'd get from that. I think Steve had suggested that an import would be possible from the sheet. Obviously, you'd get the questions, but you wouldn't get the drop downs or the radio buttons, the answers. So they would have to be manually added, but you could at least get the subject of each question.
Mm-hmm. One thing you can do if you do the imports correctly, and I've done this up to 3 levels. So if you have a situation where you have company records, and company records have contacts, and contacts have tasks, and they look up from each other. If we build the the columns in the CSV right, so they've got the same field name, which they should have anyway. You can actually, if you import them tasks first, then contacts, then companies, or the other way around. It's been a while since I did one, but I've done it a couple of times. You can have those imports and those referential lookups get built on the fly during the import, so that your contact really is working for the company and their tasks are theirs. The system's automatically worked out, the back-end record IDs to link them all up. So we can do that. So there's quite a bit of complexity we can import and do, but no, field lookup values, you can't read that from the data. We can only read the data at the moment. And then for the notifications, so they're at the workflow. One of the workflow stages is send an email, and then I want to see it properly. So okay, I'm going to go to the proper builder. That was the on the fly builder thing. So the email template in the subject, as well as being able to put standard text, you can put any of the fields. So data from the record that the workflow is processing right now, okay. Plus static text, and then in the body again, tables and some layouts, and you can embed graphics and other stuff in here, but also all the field values, and then action buttons, either view the record or edit the record. So they'll see that, they go, okay, hit the link, the form will come up, and then they can approve, reject, add comments, all of that stuff. So, and then with the addressing, you can either send it to an explicit user. So, if there's just somebody, it always goes to Steve.
Right.
It should go to Steve because he's at the pool. He just needs work. We need to make him work while he's at the pool. Role, so any one of the user roles that we've defined in the app, or possibly most usefully, field. So if there's a user selection or email field type on the record, so you can have, for example, when you look up the person, you could look up their manager as well, and that would be a field record. And then the system can automatically email the manager as first level of approval, that kind of stuff. And you can get it to, I briefly mentioned that it can generate a PDF to make a nice report quality version of a record. So if you were using that to do, a signable approval thing, or a summary, or a quote or something, you can automatically attach that auto-generated PDF to the email as well.
Right. Okay. Yep. All right. Good. That answers that question. I figured it would be possible somehow in the app. Any last?
Somebody would have asked for that already. That one's too useful.
Yeah, very useful. Any last questions from people? If not, we'll go around and do the round robin, people's feedback on their initial thoughts. Thank you very much, Richard, for going through the application. If you could unshare your screen for us, we can see everybody in full HD clarity, or not in the case of fuzzy cameras. And let's start with Randy. I'm going to pick one person and ask for your thoughts, input.
I knew it was going to be me again. I just knew it. I find it super, super intriguing. I think I have to bubble up a bit more of how I would use it. So while I don't have an immediate, oh, this is fabulous for me, I think it's also very much just based on where we're at and what we use and what we have. So I think there might be some other opportunities for some of the bigger things that I use that I darn well know are just overkill and hate having to pay just for what it is. So looking at some of that I could build all the parts I need out of that, just cut it off there and just use this, there's some intriguing space there. So while I don't have an immediate, I'm all in or I'm all out, I got to look at it. I think it's totally worth diving in and looking at.
Cool.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And we'll go for Alex. As for your thoughts.
It looks really robust, useful. Yes, pretty open. So I'm turning through ideas where we could use it, but yeah, looks good.
Excellent. And we'll go to Rose Layton up there.
So I like the tool. I like the pricing model. I like the effort that you guys have really put into this to make it no code, because I think there's so many people at a lot of different kinds of organizations who really need that. I would say the one thing that I would caution you about is just making sure that you stand out in this space, right? Because like we've seen a couple of different tools that do similar things. It's just making sure that you're really able to position whatever it is that you feel makes you stand out in the space. I think there is a lot to like about this, and especially for organizations that are heavily using AppScript or heavily using sort of Excel-based automation. Like there's a lot of opportunity here. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're right though.
Yeah, certainly becoming a very busy space, the whole automation market, covering lots of different things. Brian, your thoughts?
Okay, there we go. Yes, thank you for the very clear demo. It does seem very robust. It does seem like you have a lot of options in there, which is great. The very thick Swiss Army knife, if you will, of all the different things that you can kind of put things together there. I was looking for the MP3 player, but that's okay. We can talk about that some other time. Finding some of the overlaps with some of the other apps that are common, where a lot of these startups and a lot of these companies go and just grab the most popular app because they hear it and then they demand it, like Asana and the other things that do some of the features there. I don't think they do all of them that overlap completely. And that actually really intrigued me on GW apps to be able to kind of have a more robust, thicker Swiss Army knife, if you will. Also with some of the ease of maybe Confluence as well, like being able to create some wiki type pages or FAQ type resources for people to see, where it doesn't necessarily need a lot of input, but can possibly be used for sourcing and stuff like that. Those combined into a single app here, I think would be great. And so I was, dropping some big boy names there to see if you can take some of those over. And I agree with Rosa. We got to stand out. We gotta. It's kind of hard to sell if I don't have a lot of resources online to be like, look what this can do, look what this can do, look what this can do.
Yeah.
Okay, Dominic, any feedback from you?
I'm moving more and more of my workflows into Fresh Service with their more and better API connections and workflows and orchestration applications. It's a lot of my workflows are between tools. Which makes it different to what I would use a tool like yours for. And generally, I have taken a look at many tools, app sheets and all of them. And there's just a whole lot of things that are hard. So I think there are a lot of tools that have a high power but hard to learn. So you still need that brain, and your if-else statement or workflow that stood out to me, which would make it easier for me to recommend it to non-technical people to figure this out. So that's that part. And then finally, with these no codes, I always look at resource intensiveness. They're technically more resource intensive than if I would build something in C or in a really built way, and that's where a lot of my hesitation comes in these cases. I'm sparing you the AWS question today, but that's part of my thoughts.
Right, thank you, Dominic. Anybody else for a comment? I think Karim, you're with GW Apps, aren't you? Yeah, because I saw your answer.
He's the architect.
Is he?
Oh yeah.
Excellent.
He's the true brain trust.
I'm ready for the AWS question.
Tell your honest opinion about what you think of the product.
So I'll a bit of feedback. My thoughts. I do love the pricing. As Rose said, it's great that it's there. I think the price point makes the barrier for entry very affordable, and it's something that I'll think and consider. It's certainly something that we should be doing a trial of and having a look and seeing what can be done. I can see it being a very, very good fit for in the example that you showed for the property management agency or some other internal processes. If you don't already have a service catalog, platform in place, like there is an expansion of this automation from other platforms like Fresh Service, from Freshworks, where you've already got your ITSM and you've got your service catalog, and now they're doing automation. But if somebody didn't have that, or their current platform didn't do this type of flow, then I think this is a great solution, certainly for somebody who's very invested in the Google workspace stack as well. So yeah, certainly interesting. And I was very pleased to hear you had an API, because that opens a lot of possibilities, certainly for connecting into another platform that may have triggered workflows, for example, that can expand what can happen when that form is completed. So, and it seems that everything in life is a form, and all we need to do is just automate them and complete them. So
I thought you were going to say fill it out.
Yes. I will be sending you, everybody, a GWS powered review form at the end of this episode, asking you to provide your feedback. But no, any final thoughts or comments from Richard or Henry?
No, first, thank you for attending this. Hope fun and useful. We offer you a free 60-day trial. We can extend a discount for the group. So even if you decide to convert, or when you decide to convert, we will thank you for your support. And we offer free support, live support for clients that are serious about building an app. So we can help them build an app and validate it. So we encourage you to leverage that. You can sign up and download the app go to register.gwapps.com, and then we'd love to have you put it to test and tell us how we can improve it. Kareem has a robust roadmap, and it's going to get better. The more ideas we get from you, the better we can make it.
Excellent. All right. Well, we thank you for your time, and everybody attending and providing their feedback, and the offer of an extended trial. That does make it. It is. One thing I don't like is that, we'll give you a 7-day trial or a 2-week trial on all of these.
You can't kick the tires that quick.
It's enough time for me to, you have to pick when you're going to do that very, very precious trial, but 60-day is very usable. So I'll look at starting one of them. But thank you very much. Thank you everybody for joining, and we'll see everybody again in a couple more weeks.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.